A family in East Texas spent 4 months and just under $200,000 building exactly what every Barndominium blog told them to build. A clean rectangle, one roofline, steel siding done. It went up in record time. It came in under budget. And 18 months later, when they tried to sell it, 3 separate buyers walked the property and said some version of the same thing. It looks like a warehouse with windows. The box that was supposed to be the smart, efficient, foolproof choice had become the exact thing, making their home harder to sell than the pricier, more complicated Barndo down the road. That's the strange contradiction sitting at the center of Barndominium design right now. The simple rectangle is still the cheapest way to build one of these homes. It is still the fastest. On paper, it's still the smart choice. So why are architects, builders, and buyers increasingly walking away from it? Before we get into why the box is falling out of favor, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. We're breaking down Barndo design trends every week, and you don't want to miss where this one is heading. Now, back to the story. For most of the last decade, the rectangle wasn't a compromise. It was the whole appeal. A simple box with a single gable roof uses the least amount of steel per square foot of any shape you can build. There are no valleys where 2 roof lines meet, which means fewer places for water to pool and fewer places for a roof to eventually leak. There's no jog in the foundation, no extra corners for a crew to frame, no complicated flashing details for a contractor to get wrong. If you've ever heard someone say a barndominium is the most affordable way to build a large home, what they're usually picturing, whether they realize it or not, is this exact shape. A rectangular footprint keeps steel costs down. A single roof line keeps labor hours down. Skip the dormers, skip the bump outs, skip the complicated geometry, and what's left is a clean, honest building that goes up fast. That efficiency is real, and it's not going away. But something has shifted in how buyers experience that efficiency once they're standing in front of the finished house. Walk up to a plain rectangular barndo today, and the eye doesn't have anywhere to land. There's no porch tucking you in, no gable pulling your attention toward a front door, no variation in roofline to suggest that different things are happening on the inside. A bedroom wing here, a great room there, a shop tucked around back. It just reads as one long wall. And in a housing style that spent the last several years fighting hard to shed its reputation as a metal shed with a kitchen, a bare rectangle drags that reputation right back into the frame. Here's the part that surprises people who assumed simple always meant cheaper in every sense that matters. The rectangle is winning on construction cost and quietly losing on resale. Builders working in this space right now will tell you that plain box barndos are increasingly the ones sitting on the market the longest, especially outside of the rural, work-first buyers they were originally built for. As barndominiums have pushed into suburban edges, and even into some cities loosening their accessory dwelling rules, the audience buying them has changed. It's no longer just the rancher who needs equipment storage attached to a home. It's a much broader group of buyers who are cross-shopping a barndo against a modern farmhouse, a craftsman, a contemporary build, and those buyers are used to homes with a front elevation that actually does something. That's the first crack in the rectangle's armor. The second one is about what's happening on the roof. For years, a single gambrel or gable roof line was treated almost as a design signature of the Barndo style, the thing that instantly told you what kind of home you were looking at. But 2026 has quietly become the year of the combination roof. Builders are blending roof lines on purpose now. A clear story section paired with a lower bonnet slope, a hip roof meeting a gable at a deliberate angle, dormers punched into what used to be one uninterrupted plane. None of this is decoration for decoration's sake. A dormer set into a steep-pitched roof turns an used attic space into a bedroom with real headroom and a real window, sometimes adding an entire usable floor's worth of square footage without touching the foundation. A break in the roofline, where a porch tucks under an extended eave, gives you covered outdoor space that a flat rectangular gable simply can't produce on its own. The moment you introduce even one of these elements, the roof stops being a lid and starts being part of the floor plan. That single change also solves the problem we started with, the warehouse silhouette. A roofline with even modest variation gives a barndo a front elevation, a real face, the same way a farmhouse or a craftsman has one. Buyers respond to that, and appraisers do too. Now here's where the story gets more complicated than just add a dormer and call it day. Because the trade-offs are real and worth being honest about. Every break in a roofline is a place where two different roof planes have to meet, and every one of those meeting points is a place water can find its way in if it's flashed wrong. A dormer needs an experienced roofing contractor, not a DIY crew with a weekend free. Combination roof lines take longer to frame, longer to dry in, and longer to get right, which means labor costs climb in the exact spot the plain rectangle was saving you money. None of this is a reason to avoid the trend. It's the reason the trend has a cost, and pretending otherwise would be dishonest. The homeowner gains curb appeal, resale value, and usable square footage they weren't paying for in materials. What they sacrifice is some of that build speed and budget certainty that made the rectangle so appealing in the first place. So the real question isn't rectangle versus complicated roofline. It's how much complexity buys you enough design payoff to be worth it. And that's exactly where the second major shift is happening, and it might matter even more than the roof. If you've been enjoying this breakdown, now's a good moment to hit that like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people who are planning their own build. Okay, back to the box and why it's not just the roof that's the problem. The rectangle isn't only losing ground on top, it's losing ground in plan. For most of the Barndominium boom, one long open rectangle made sense because it matched how these homes were actually being used. A great room, a kitchen, bedrooms lined up along one hallway, maybe a shop bolted onto one end. But as land prices climb in the exact rural and semi-rural markets where barndos have always thrived, that single-story rectangle is running into a math problem. A bigger footprint on more expensive land costs more before you've laid a single stud. Builders are responding by going up instead of out. And two-story barndominiums are showing real momentum in 2026 as buyers try to squeeze more livable square footage onto a smaller, cheaper lot. A two-story layout with a vaulted great room downstairs and a loft or extra bedrooms tucked upstairs gets you more house on less land. But a straight rectangle stacked 2 stories tall reads even more like a warehouse than the single-story version did. The taller the box, the more the eye wants a broken roofline, a porch, something to interrupt all that flat vertical wall. Then there's the layout shift almost nobody outside the industry is talking about yet. The return of the breezeway. A breezeway barndo, sometimes built in the old dogtrot style, where a covered, open-air walkway splits a home into 2 connected volumes, solves a problem the sealed rectangle never really addressed well. It separates loud from quiet. It lets a garage or shop sit close enough to be convenient without funneling engine fumes, dust, and noise straight into a great room. It creates a covered outdoor space that costs a fraction of a fully conditioned addition, because a breezeway doesn't need insulation, drywall, or HVAC, just a roof, a slab, and 2 structures to connect. But a breezeway, by definition, is not a rectangle. The moment you split a floor plan into 2 connected masses joined by an open corridor, you've broken the single box footprint that made the original design philosophy so cheap and so fast. You're now pricing 2 smaller structures and a connecting roof, dealing with an extra roofline intersection, and coordinating utilities across a gap instead of running them in a straight line. It costs more per square foot delivered. It also, by nearly every account from builders working in this space, sells better, lives better, and photographs better than the sealed box it's replacing. That's the pattern showing up across nearly every trend, pulling buyers away from the plain rectangle. 2-story massing, breezeways, broken roof lines, wraparound and covered porches extending the roof past the building's edge to create shaded outdoor rooms. None of these are about abandoning what made Barndominiums popular in the first place. The honest structure, the open interiors, the lower cost per square foot compared to a stick-built home. They're about buyers wanting all of that, plus a house that doesn't look like it was built off the same single stock template as the Barndo 3 lots down. And that gets us to the deeper truth sitting underneath all of this, the re-hook we promised at the start. The rectangle didn't fail because it was a bad idea. It succeeded so completely for so long that it became the default, and a default eventually stops reading as smart and starts reading as generic. When almost every Barndo builder stock plan is some version of the same long box with the same single roofline, the box stops signaling efficient to a buyer walking the market and starts signaling unfinished, or worse, cheap, in the wrong sense of the word. The irony is that the rectangle is still, dollar for dollar, one of the most efficient shapes you can build. It just stopped being enough on its own to make a barndo feel like a home someone chose on purpose rather than a home someone settled for. So what does the winning shape actually look like in 2026? It isn't a total rejection of the rectangle. It's a rectangle that's been allowed to breathe. A single-story or two-story rectangular core still does the heavy lifting on cost, because that core shape is still cheap to frame and cheap to roof. But that core now gets an intentional gable over the front door instead of one flat wall. It gets a covered porch that extends the roofline outward rather than stopping dead at the exterior wall. It gets a dormer or two breaking up what used to be one long, unbroken slope, adding real square footage in the process rather than just decoration. And increasingly, it gets split, a main house connected to a garage or shop by an open breezeway, instead of everything crammed under one continuous roof. Every one of those additions costs money the plain rectangle didn't. Every one of them adds time the plain rectangle didn't need. And every one of them is the reason a growing share of new barnominium builds don't look anything like the boxes that put this housing style on the map 5 years ago. Because buyers decided the box's efficiency wasn't worth its silence. A home that says nothing about itself from the road, no matter how well built it is behind that flat wall, is a harder sell than one that gives you a reason to slow down and look twice. The rectangle isn't disappearing from Barndominium design. It's just no longer allowed to stand alone. And that shift from build the cheapest shape possible to build the cheapest shape possible, then spend just enough to give it a face, might be the single biggest change in how these homes are designed heading into the second half of this decade. Next time, we're looking at a completely different reaction to the same restlessness. Builders trading warm farmhouse whites for something darker, moodier, and far more dramatic. We're calling it the modern Gothic trend. And once you see it, you won't be able to unsee in half the new Barndo renders online right now.